What a day to be at the races, and the second opportunity this weekend to experience the sights and the sounds of normally aspirated 4-litre flat 6 Porsche engines. Hello everybody, I'm John Heindorf, and along with Shea Adam I'll be taking you through the action for our second race of the weekend for Porsche Carrera Cup North America here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin and Road America. 4 miles and a little bit around. Oh, it's just a great place. It's not just because of the scenery, which is absolutely stunning. It's not just because of the history, which goes back for well over half a century, but the challenge that this circuit gives for any car driver and team. Unrivaled in world motorsport. It's right up there with the best. We've got a whole load of fans who know all about their motorsport around here, and a big hello to Regan, Harry and Jackson, who have got the signs up down at the bottom of the hill. Let's remind ourselves what happened yesterday, because we've already had one 40-minute contest going to the line. It was Luke Hartog, the runaway championship leader, who brought them to the line, and he managed to convert his pole position into a lead at the first corner. The action was all behind him as Efren Castro spun across the rest of the field. Amazing that nobody else actually picked him up. Further round the lap, we had Zach Vanier and Michael Cooper going off at turn 5, and Moise Oretsky also having problems at turn 14 as he came into contact with James Sofranes. Alan Metney also had some problems in the 99. Jake Pedersen and he coming together, and they speared off, having broken their steering arms. At the front of the field, our AM winner was the number 68, Chris Malomo. It was the number 16 that came through to win in Pro-Am. Well done to Elias Torres. And Luke Hartog taking yet another victory. Shea Adam alongside me in the Global Broadcast Centre. Pretty exciting race yesterday, as we've come to expect from Porsche Carrera Cup North America, and a couple of drivers who didn't get the results they wanted. Notably, a couple of drivers with new teams, Dan Clark and Sabra Cook, both running well and had problems. Dan will start 4th, Sabra will start in 12th position, both with new teams this weekend, Shay.
Yes, they are running with Era Motorsport this weekend, as MDK is not participating with the season-long championship any further. They both found new homes, as did Yves Baltas, who's running with GMG Racing this weekend. Really glad to see so many team changes at this point in the season being successful. The drivers able to slot right into their new homes. Another guy with a new home is Michael McCann, who this weekend is running with Kelly Moss. And it is Kelly Moss who will be leading the field, as they have been for the last few years, here at their home track, Road America. Luke Hartog, winner of the race yesterday, winner of pole position for today's race. That comes with a valuable further 2 points to his championship lead. He now has 41 over Alex Sedgwick in second. Sedgwick starting quite a bit further back in 7th.
Yeah, we also have Ken King, who's changed teams as well. No Carlos de Quesada or Roberto Totino, so 32 cars to go racing in a beautiful day. Weather will not be an issue here. And at the front of the field then, let's have a look at the Pro category. Luke Hartog for Kelly Moss in the 24 will lead them to the line, with Jimmy Lieber alongside him for ACI Motorsport, Ryan Yardley and Dan Clark. Dan in the green and yellow car, he'll be looking for a better result than Colin Comiskey, Zach Vanier, Alex Sedgwick, Michael McCann, Madeline Stewart qualifying inside the top 10, which is made up by Elias De La Torre. They are all the Pro cars. Pro-Am pole sitter Pedro Torres in 11th. Masters pole sitter in 17th, Chris Balomo. That's how they line up with 40 minutes on the clock. Time to go racing. Take a deep breath now. Hold it for a moment. Wiggle to the edge of your seat, because you won't need all of it. It's a very slow run to the line. Green flag in hand. Luke Hartog controlling the pace of the field, with Jimmy Lieber in the red, white and blue car to his left-hand side. They still have not hit the loud pedal. This is a long, long run by the pole sitter. He's really relying on everybody else playing well together, and they do. And now Hartog leaps away and heads down to the first corner. He's hugging the right-hand side, trying to make anybody make a move round the outside of him. Ryan Yardley had a look down the inside. Dan Clark goes to second from fourth on the grid. Did he just about hold on to the track? I think he did, as did the leader. Here comes Dan Clark around the outside of turn number 3. He's got his nose in front. Clark leads by about 4 or 5 inches. They're side by side under the Sargento Cheese Bridge. And these two cars are still battling out. In third place, it's Jimmy Libra, and he's got a company as well. That's the number 9 of Zach Vanier, who's made a great run down into turn 5 for the first time. Clark converts into the lead as we have a car in the dirt. It's Geordie Miller, the number 10 machine. And that car, I don't think is getting out of there. I'm just looking at the Yokohama tyres on the back of that car. They look to be dug in. Oh, and the lead's changed again whilst I was slightly my attention was taken. So what? Full course yellow. Now that's key, Shea. When did Luke Hartog get that lead back again?
Oh, he had it. He had it going into turn 6, made a very decisive move down the inside of Speedy Dan Clark and fully retook control of the lead of this race, then started to pull away, but Jody Miller unfortunately stuck in the gravel. Jody's still very new to professional racing, being coached by a guy who's got a lot of racing experience, John, a guy that we've called for a very long time, one Mr. Eric Foss. Jody, with the door open, letting us know he is okay, but there were spins attempted to make him out of the gravel. The Yokohama tires did not grab anything. Now, the start will be under review, and that is something that we need to talk about from yesterday, because there was a penalty with changing lanes, but I did manage to catch up with Randy Buck. Actually, he managed to catch up with me at the end of yesterday and clarify. If a car moves out of line but does not pass in response to the car ahead of them not going, i.e. it is an avoidance of a collision, that is not viewed as a penalty. So we saw Sabre Cook moving out of line, but that was because Elias De La Torre ahead of her did not accelerate at the same rate. Sabre did not make a pass, did not move ahead, so race control will not deem that as a false start or an incorrect starting procedure. That should be okay. Safety team is already hooked up to Jody Miller, and he is being extricated from the gravel, so good news there.
And that's down at the bottom of the hill at turn 3. I don't think he's going to get out before the field comes through. They're just heading to that area of the circuit now. Yeah, that happened yesterday, didn't it? Because we saw it was Ryan Yardley who had to jump out of line because Dan Clark didn't get such a great start. But he jumped to his left, and he was on the left-hand side of the grid, didn't overlap and didn't pass. And we said at the time that we didn't think that would attract a penalty. And Randy Buck, by the way, is our series race director for the Porsche Carrera Cup North America. There was another car involved in Jody going off, by the way, and that is being looked at the moment. I haven't had that car identified to me, but that is a lap lost, I'm afraid, for Jody Miller in the MGM car. So that will take Jody out of the running as far as the Masters is concerned. The four-way flash is still on that car. They'll clear themselves in a moment. It looks very much as though the lights on the Porsche 911 Carrera GTS safety car have been extinguished, so get ready to go straight back to green. Time certain race, 4 minutes in, 36 minutes still to go. Huge crowd here today, absolutely fabulous. Thank you very much indeed for supporting IMSA on this IMSA Sports Car Weekend, such a staple of the IMSA calendar here at Road America. August, first weekend in August again next year. All of the dates for IMSA's main series have now been announced. They full WeatherTech Series dates were announced as far back as Sebring in March, so hopefully you're already making your plans to come back and see us next year if you're watching and or listening further afield. We're live and free on the Porsche Motorsport site, of course on the IMSA official YouTube page, as well as the World Feed TV page at imsaradio.com. Well, if you haven't been here, it should be on your bucket list. Flying from Europe, fly into Chicago and drive up, or link through to Milwaukee and drive up from there. A beautiful part of the world, very knowledgeable fan base here, great hospitality, fabulous food. Expect to take a bit of XX baggage with you when you go back, and I'm not necessarily talking about in the cargo hold of the aircraft if you're heading here from points further afield. It is impossible to eat here without thoroughly enjoying yourself. Although I will point out here, if you're going in and out of Chicago, then Garrett's popcorn and the Garrett mix, that is addictive, shall we say. Stand by for action. 33.5 minutes on the clock. Will be about where we are. The green flag, and our leader Luke Hartog already got his foot down, and as they cross the line, it's 33 and 34 seconds to go. So we call it 33-33 for the sake of symmetry. And another good start or restart from the Kenny Moss driver Luke Hartog. Dan Clark losing a position into turn one gives Zach Vanier a bit of room on the outside in that number 9, the silver, white and black car. That was very fair driving from both. Jimmy Lieber's in the red, white and blue car in 4th position. But Hartog again, Shay, lit the afterburners there. I think he actually got a better restart than even he did at the drop of the original green flag.
Fully agree with that, and what a pass from Zach Vanier, sending it around the outside, holding it within track limits, and Dan Clark, very fair to him, gave him enough room and that's all that Vanier needed. Michael McCann now looking down the inside of Jimmy Lieber. He's now got that 4th position. McCann again with a new team this week. Kelly Moss, away from his small 1-car team, is showing that he is capable of getting up into those podium positions.
Also trying to make a move, Elias De La Torre in the number 4 JDX racing car. That's another brightly coloured, a little more lime green than the highlighter yellow of Dan Clark. Did he get through in front of Jimmy Lieber? Yes, he did. So Lieber's lost a couple of positions there. I can also see Ryan Yardley is hunting around the back in that black and yellow car behind that. Alex Sedgwick's in there as well in the red and white car. Sabra Cook's inside the top 10 with Colin Kaminsky. Madeline Stewart just dropped down to 11th at the moment. The 37 is Sabra Cook. Down the inside at Canada corner. That's a sharp manoeuvre by Sabra. That's Colin Kaminsky. She's side by side with, in the darker blue car, Michael Cooper in the Baby Bull Racing 88. The purple car right in that fight as well as they come through the final corner. None of the drivers who had to switch teams coming into this race seem to have been adversely affected, and considering how much work they've had to do to continue their race season, that is quite remarkable. Yardley and Sedgwick going down into turn 1 together. Then a little gap to this really interesting scrap at the bottom end of the top 10. 9th Kaminsky in the top racing dark blue car, side by side. Cooper goes down the inside of Sabra Cook. Sabra in the white, teal and black car. Now for Era Motorsport. At the head of the field, Luke Hartog has a 2.5 seconds, but these battles further down in the pro class. Top 12, by the way, all pro. James Sofranas has got to the front of Pro Am ahead of Jordan Wallace and Moise Oretsky. They run 13th, 14th and 15th with Pedro Torres in 16th. That's your top 4 in Pro-Am, and in Masters, Chris Palomo is in 17th, and he's got cars between himself and Matt Holcomb and Richard Edge and John Getz, who are battling for the other podium positions, but plenty of time to go as we're only 10 minutes into this one, half an hour still to go.
Chris Palomo taking his first ever series win yesterday. Very exciting day for the Kelly Moss driver. Very much a gap between he and Matt Halcomb in the Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine. But that battle in the Pro-Am class with all 4 cars almost tethered together, that's going to be very interesting. James Sofronis yesterday with an okay result in second, but he's not a guy who comes here for second places. He likes to win. Pedro Torres, yesterday's winner, down in 4th. Then Efren Castro and Jeff Mosing further back. Mosing actually finished 3rd on the road, but then due to a post-race technical infraction was moved to the back of the class. And yesterday's race results were actually altered quite substantially by several technical infractions at the end of it. It was a TPMS sensor issue for several of the cars, John, and the way that it was best explained to me, those are a bit like smoke detectors. You don't know when the battery is going to go bad necessarily until it starts beeping. That's what we were seeing yesterday. But the teams now know a better way to address that, so we shouldn't necessarily see that problem going forward, as Luke Hartog has checked out 2.5 seconds over Zach Vanier, the Canadian, holding on to that second place. I'm still impressed by Vanier's pass, to be honest.
Vanier, what a great start to this race. Pulled himself up from mid-part of the top 10 into second position. This is where he's running now, and he's been very impressive indeed. I like the analogy with smoke detectors for the tyre pressure monitoring system.
Thank you.
Because if your house is anything like my house, if one goes, they all start to go within a few days. And we saw people losing their times in qualifying because they weren't there. And remember, this is a safety issue as well as a performance issue. So if it's all the same part of the season and everybody put them in brand new at the start of the season and have replaced them at the same sort of times, then yeah, we're going to see that through the field. I suspect everybody will have new ones in by the time we reconvene for the next round of the championship. Luke Hartog at the front of the field is well away from the battling that's going on behind Alex Sedgwick in the red, white, black roof. Number 98 just off the circuit. It's turn number 7 as he battles with Ryan Yardley and Colin Kaminsky. In fact, he's lost a place, I think, there. As Ryan Yardley now up ahead of the number 4, Elias de la Torre, in fact. So that is change around there. Ahead of them is Jimmy Libra.
That was a great opportune mover by Ryan Yardley when Alex Sedgwick, who was battling with Elias de la Torre, went off the track just that tiny bit wide, and Yardley snuck through not only on Sedgwick, but then getting around de la Torre too. Now, Elias must have some kind of an issue because he is sliding all over the racetrack. His car does not look planted, whereas Sedgwick's looks very stable.
Which, considering the PT Autosports car has just been on the dirt, is counterintuitive. A beautiful twofer there by Ryan Yardley, just as the Sedgwick car was going off, and as you see, the number 4 had to lift for a moment, and then he kept his foot pinned, Days of Thunder style, and went through the gap. Sedgwick down the inside of the green car, which is Elias de la Torre, through turn 1, keeps 2 Yokohama tyres on the racing surface, or on the curb at least. That's fine. Hartog by almost 3 seconds now. Zach Vanier's just put his fastest lap of the race in at 2:10.5, but that was still 6/10 away from the lap last time around by the leader. But Zach's got to get a wiggle on because Dan Clark's just put his fastest lap of the race in 3rd. Dan finding pace in the middle portion of this race. Still 25 minutes to go. Plenty of action to come here from Road America. Race 2, Porsche Carrera Cup, North America, the IMSA Sports Car Weekend. Shay Adam with me, John Hindorf in the Global Broadcast Centre. Hello, welcome along, wherever you're joining us from. All live, free, no subscriptions, and remember, if you're on IMSA.tv or on the video player at IMSARadio.com, no interruptions by ads either. If it's easier for you to go onto the IMSA YouTube channel, then you can do that. Porsche Motorsport page has it as well. No excuse to miss the quality sights and sounds of Porsche Carrera Cup North America for 2025. Still plenty of championship to come after this. The big question is, can anybody break the stranglehold of Luke Hartog? And by what we've seen this weekend, for the moment, at least, that answer would be not quite yet, Shay.
No, it is not a very long way to go in this championship with still 3 further weekends. Luke Hartog in firm position of that championship lead. And right now in Pro-Am, Marco Cironi coming into today's race, 144 points, Moise Uretsky 137, and a tie for third between 2 former series champions, Alan Metney and Efren Castro, on 123 points. But right now, the battle for the lead in the Pro-Am class on the track, it is firmly between James Sofronis and Jordan Wallace. 0.2 of a second separating them, that's it.
And the fastest lap in Pro-Am, switching as they went across the line between Sofronas, Wallace, Uretsky, and then Pedro Torres in 4th position finally gets hold of it and holds on to it. Chris Palomo still leading Masters from in 2nd place. Matt Holcomb in the Mystery Machine, number 55, and his ACI Motorsports teammate Richard Edge is right behind him, as is John Getz from Kelly Moss Motorsport. The blue and yellow number 14 under pressure at the moment. And that is the leader in Pro-Am going through turn 5. GMG Racing's James Sofronas. Beautiful line through turn 6. Just rides the outside tyres, the right-hand side tyres, onto the exit curb. And all of those cars, 13th, 14th, 15th and 16th, all within a tenth or a couple of tenths of each other, all battling for the top 4 places, Shay, Adam, in the Pro-Am category. They're having a cracking scrap.
Oh, this is magnificent. Jordan Wallace, who's still fairly new to racing, learning right now from James Sofronis, a guy who's got a lot of experience in racing. This is a perfect opportunity to sort of get a little bit more experience under your belt by watching and learning what to do, where to go around this track. And James Sofronis has a lot of laps around Road America, especially in a Porsche. Now, there are a couple of messages coming in from race control. Track limits, turn 1, only warnings right now, but for 2 cars toward the front of the grid, one of them being Elias De La Torre, who does have his hood flapping just that tiny little bit, and the second, our leader, Luke Hartog, in the number 24 for Kelly Moss, and a blocking penalty being issued for Ryan Yardley, car number 78. Ooh. It's a warning right now as Jordan Wallace goes off the track at turn 14 into the gravel. Can he keep his foot down and get it out? Well, the smoke continues. He's almost there.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Yes. Well done, Jordan. Rear engine car, of course, the Porsche 911, and with the weight over those rear Yokohamas, just managed to find enough purchase. Number 23 car, in fact, actually just a bit of push, bit of understeer there. Jordan managed to keep enough forward momentum and get down through the gearbox. Big plume of dust behind him. Down, foot down, foot down. I got it, I got it, I got it, I know I got it, I have got it. Now spreading gravel like a winter gritter all on the racing line there. As he tries to fight his way back, he's dropped all the way down to the back of the field. Only Tom Balamis behind him now. As he tries to fight his way back, he's got Todd Parriott ahead of him in that multicoloured number 13 Kelly Moss racing car. So Luke Hartog with 5 seconds of a lead when he had the warning has just eased his pace a little bit. Meantime, the top of the hill a couple of moments ago, nice move down the inside for Jimmy Libre on the number 8 of Michael McCann, who then slightly got himself elbowed the hip and shoulder, I think, by Ryan Yardley. So again, race control will be watching this. Just back to Luke Hartog. He was 5 seconds ahead, 4.9. He dropped to 4.6, but he's just done his fastest lap of the race with a 2:09.5, which is the fastest lap of the race as we come down to half distance. But he cannot afford to be called for track limits. If he got a 10-second penalty right now, it would drop him off the podium.
Yes and no. He does have time to build that gap out further, but then there is also the question of, do you want to build a gap? Because what if we go to a safety car situation and you need life in those Yokohama tires yet to try and run away from everyone else? It was not a good lap for Michael McCann. He went from the 4th position down to 7th as Yardley, Libra, and Sedgwick all managing to get by Michael McCann. And now that trio is actually pulled away from him quite some distance, with Yardley leading the charge.
Chris Belomo still leading the Masters category, but now just 2 Pro-Am cars between himself and Matt Holcomb in 2nd place. Another bit of grassy moments down at the bottom of turn number 3. Now, that I think was the number 4 of Elias De La Torre for JDX, but he's rejoined. Still a great battle going on in the early teens. 14th, James Sofrones leads Pro-Am in the blue and bright highlighter yellow car. In behind him now, Moise Uretsky for Baby Bull Racing in the number 44. That's the mostly pink car with the white hind quarters. And then Pedro Torres for ACI Motorsports. Just a couple of car lengths further back in the white, black and shades of blue car. Shay, you don't know your luck. When I first started doing Porsche Carrera Cup and Super Cup, every one of the cars were white with a few stickers on them. that was the supplying colour long before the days, I'm showing my age here, long before the days when people wanted to paint cars and aero wraps weren't the thing in those days. They hadn't been invented. The cars actually are now all supplied in a colour called GT Silver, but I think we have very few cars that have any of their original paintwork on show here in Carrera Cup North America.
The only one this weekend would be Alan Metney, and that's because he switched to a backup chassis after yesterday's accident in the race. So Metney with that beautiful GT Silver. But what is it that Paul Trustwell always says? The cars that win the endurance races are the quiet white Porsches. So maybe there is some logic to that. But on that note, I was walking through the paddock 2 days ago, just admiring all the liveries and making mental notes of, ooh, I would do this instead. Ooh, I would add a flash of pink there. So maybe I'll just start updating people's liveries. I'll work with Andy Blackmore and just hand them a suggestion of what I think their car should look like.
Andy Blackmore, famed for the official spotter guides for IMSA. Look him up with the, here at the track this weekend. We've still got the main race, of course, to come. Plenty of Porsches racing in that in a couple of different categories. And Andy's work, an absolute godsend, essential. Right, down to turn 5. Battle for 7th, Michael McCann in the Kelly Moss red, white, black car, with the blue car in behind of Colin Kaminsky, and Sabra Cook is right there as well, and Sabra gets a great run through turn 6. Kaminsky started to attack, but such is the competition here, always weaving from side to side there. Don't think race control will like that. You're attacking one moment, but if your attack is repelled, a bit like Olympic fencing, you leave yourself open to an attack from elsewhere. Hell, I've been watching these last 8 days or so. This, I suppose you could say in motorsport terms, if you had a motorsport Olympic, you would have to have a Porsche race, wouldn't you? Been around for such a long time. Over 60 years now of the 911, and Porsche involved in motor racing since Dr. Porsche built his first car. Didn't have the huge backing of a major auto manufacturer, so he took his small, light, nimble and relatively small engine car and went and did some motor racing to build a reputation for design and engineering. And Porsche have lived for well over 70 years on that racing DNA, and this 911, the latest iteration of the venerable Porsche 8th different version of the car. 992.1 we're racing here, the new 992.2 street car coming out very shortly, and the first 911 to have hybrid technology, a very clever system that adds virtually no weight, but pound for pound gives a lot of power. Hartog has not eased his pace at all. Pulled out 6 seconds now on Zach Vanier, who's still being pushed along by Dan Clark. But the intriguing battle here, Shea, with 15 minutes to go, is just outside the top 10, and it's the battle for the Pro-Am podium.
As we see James Sofronis still leading the way, but Moisey Uretsky with the bright pink and purple Baby Bull Racing number 44 is harder to see now because he is so close to Sofronis that depending on the camera angle, I can't even see it in the booth occasionally because Moisey is learning and learning quick. Pedro Torres, yesterday's race winner, is in third. And then Yves Baltas in a different category but still racing for the track position is the next car in shot as Alan Metney, way deep in turn 5, does not get to the gravel and does manage to continue, but a little bit of a rough ride there for Alan. You talk about not easing the pace. The battling is continuing on, raging in the Pro-Am class, but the pace is still on fire at the head of the grid because 4 out of the top 6 cars set their personal best time through Sector 1, and one of those 6 that didn't do a best Sector 1 just did a best Sector 2, so everybody pushing as hard as they can.
Yeah, and Alex Sedgwick did the overall best Sector 1 time of anybody in the 98 JTX BT Autosports supported car. Luke Hartog resets the fastest lap at the front of the field, 6.5 seconds now. But Zach Vanier, Dan Clark, Ryan Yardley, Jimmy Libre, all setting their personal best laps of the race last time around. 2:09.581. for Luke Hartog at the front of the field. Now, big defence having to go on in Pro-Am with James Sofronis. Right in the middle of the road, he didn't move, that's fine. Made the number 44 of Moisey Uretsky go one way, then the other. But there was absolutely no movement from that number 14 car, that's fine. Race control will have no problem with that, Shea. He picked a line and stuck to it.
Yeah, and that's the kind of driving that we get from James Sofronis. Very clean. He's a guy who's won more than half the races he's entered in this championship over the last 2 years. Very known driver to race control and to all the competitors. And Moisey Uretsky, with his first win a little bit earlier on this year, still looking to try and finesse the ways of James Sofronis as he is now trying to hold off Pedro Torres. Pedro looking down the inside of turn 6, makes the pass nice and clean. Oh no, it was Yves Baltas, excuse me. It was the 15 coming through.
Yeah, so that wasn't a pass for position. Yves Baltas has gone past Pedro Torres and Moisey Uretsky, but Uretsky, having had to go offline, is now just under pressure from the next car back, and that is for position. The 16 is for position. The number 15 that went through, that was a pro car, so not the same class. For overall position, yes, but not for points in their own class. And this is manna from heaven from James Sofronis, because that blue and silver car behind him is now really helping him out, and it's his teammate. Note that they are similar colour schemes in terms of the design, just different colours, where it's bright highlighter yellow on the number 14 of James Sofronis. It's grey on Yves Baltas's car, and that means that they are both GMG machines.
James is not going to fight too hard to try and keep Yves behind him because he realizes it's a lost cause. Although Yves, with nothing really to gain at this point, still quite a few seconds back, about 8 seconds behind next in class Madeline Stewart, could sit there and play tail gunner for his team owner. Might not be the worst thing in the world.
Coming down to the last 11 minutes, and this is where we will find who, with long periods of green flag racing here, this is where we will find out who has been kindest to their Yokohama tyres. Chris Below-Morshe leading the Masters class in the number 68 Kelly Moscar, a very creditable 18th position, and still with 2 Pro-Am cars between himself and second place Matt Holcomb.
Love to see it. Chris Belomo, with yesterday's win, the first of his career, moved himself up to second in the Masters Championship. It is still Matt Halcomb, the Scooby-Doo car, in the back of shot. Only 2 cars between Belomo and Halcombe, with Jeff Mosing in there, as well as, is that Kenton King in the 84, I believe it is, separating the two Masters contenders. Chris Belomo has a very storied past of running with some phenomenal Porsche teams, including TRG and Flying Lizard in the past. Marco Cironi in the second car in the shot, sorry about that, as Kyle Washington off the track. Now he's gravel adjacent. I don't think he's in the gravel. Can Kyle get that moving once again? Not sure what corner that's at.
I think that's the exit of turn 5. And he may have had some help to get down. No, he was absolutely on his own. It is the exit of turn 5 though. And what worries me about that is, oh no, he has got it going. I was just about to say what worries me about that was, I wondered if something had locked up at the back end, and if it did, he's freed it, it's moving. The four-way flashes go on automatically, and they will clear in a second or two. He's just cleaning the tyres off through. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're used to seeing him in the yellow and blue anyway, but he's kind of jazzed it up this season. And we've not spoken about our leader, Luke Hartog, for a while. That's because nobody's seen him since the last green flag dropped. He's disappeared 7.5 seconds into the distance. How far away is he? Well, he's well over half the distance between turn 3 and turn 5. That's how far he is back away from the chasers behind him. Zach Vanier and Dan Clark seemingly have been battling for, well, in fact have been battling for the last half an hour or thereabouts. No change in that. That doesn't mean, please don't think that they haven't been trying hard. They're absolutely on the ragged edge. And you mentioned the pace of this race earlier on, Shay. I think that's really important, because what we're going to see here, I just wonder, as the racing fuel burns off, who has been kindest to their Yokohama tyres. These Yokohama tyres are very, very resilient. However, that's a heavy car with enough fuel to do well over 40 minutes of racing at the start of the competition. We've had very little time to cool them down. Track temperatures, not massive, but sitting in triple digits at 100 Fahrenheit or 38 Celsius.
And if you want an indication of just how warm it is out there, there's nobody hanging out by their tire trolleys on the pit lane. All the crews have taken refuge underneath the IMSA tents to try and watch this race. Yesterday, there were a couple of people hanging out on their trolleys, enjoying a bit of a nice breeze. None of that today. These are very different conditions from what we had yesterday. And I think a lot of the lack of grip we've seen has been replicated in that, just how slippery it is out on the surface because it is so much hotter.
Well, at the moment in the Masters category, Chris Belomo and Matt Holcomb have got a bit of breathing room, but Richard Edge and John Getz and Scott Blind are all battling for the final step of the box there in 25th, 26th and 27th position. So we'll keep an eye on that. Belomo in the silver, black, white and purple, number 68, still circulating ahead of Jeff Mosing and Marco Cironi. Jeff in the rhubarb and custard coloured car, Marco Cironi in the green, number 84. In fact, Marco's just got back in the black and green, number 84, has just got past Matt. Shall we do this the right way around? He's just got past Jeff. Matt Holcomb still sitting behind him. I was combining two sentences at the same time without saying either of them correctly. My apologies. 6.5 minutes to go. So that's not a pass for position there. And a spin for Alan Metney in the GT silver car. He's had an excursion at turn 5 and now at the bottom of the hill at turn 3. Metney, who was disappointingly for him down in 8th in Pro Am. This is a driver who we've seen threatening the pro drivers in the past in this category of racing. He has regained the circuit and will continue, but has lost a lot of ground there. Now you'd think, wouldn't you, Shay, with 6 minutes to go and 6, 7, 8 seconds to the good, that Luke Hartog would be quite happy to ease off Well, no, he's taken another half a second out to Zach Vanier last time around, and now he's 9 seconds up the road at the head of the field.
It's like you've just read my mind, John, because I just looked over at the timing screen and saw a personal best Sector 1 for Luke Hartog, a very, very good Sector 2, actually better than what we're seeing from everybody else on track by about a second, and then a decent Sector 3 as well, and thought, Luke Hartog, 1 speed, fast. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. With Zach Vanier, 9.1 seconds back, and Zach barely any breathing room over Dan Clark. He is still having to fight very, very hard to try and maintain that position. Now, Chris Palomo does not have to fight very, very hard against Marco Chironi behind him, as Sabra Cook has come into the pit lane. I'm going to keep an eye on that and see what's happened to her, because she was having a good run up in the 9th position as Kenton Cook goes for a spin in turn 14. Well, we've got less than 5 minutes to go, but that doesn't mean it's calming down at all.
Yeah, Sabra was fighting with Elias de la Torres and Michael Cooper, and that's Kenton King that's gone around at the final corner, and he isn't moving at the moment. They're popping the front end of Sabra's car. Now, there's no engine in there, of course, but there are other important pieces of equipment, including brake reservoir, and that was just a tiny mistake by Kenton in the 74 car. Kenton King just dropped his left rear Yokohama into the dirt by the curb, sent him around. He's got going again. Luke Hartog, by the way, that lap that Shea was describing, that was another fastest lap of the race for Luke. That's taken him over 9 seconds ahead of the field. 2:09.5 now, the mark to beat. Change of tyre manufacturer to Yokohama this year, so that's effectively a new race lap record on this rubber for these cars. So Yokohama hadn't run with these cars in the past. This iteration, at least, of the Carrera Cup car. 3 minutes to go. It'll be white flag next time around for Luke Hartog. He's not quite far enough to stop, make himself a cup of coffee and continue, but a million miles away
maybe
from
an
that. This
espresso.
has been, well, yeah, very good. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's been a while, Shea, since we've seen the kind of dominance that Luke's putting together. Kelly Moss have won championships over the last few years with regularity, but they've either had competition from inter-team, within the team, intra-team, or somebody else has pushed them a little bit. But this year, Luke Hartog, another great find by the Kelly Moss team. And, Victoria and Andy once again have turned up some phenomenal talent.
Yeah. And Luke Hartog did as much to find them as they did to find him. He decided that he wanted to come race Carrera Cup North America and decided he wanted to go with the best team. He certainly found a powerhouse of an alliance with Kelly Moss. The interesting thing about this season is how different it's been. We've had 6 different race winners over the course of the year, over the 5 weekends that we've had now at this stage, but it was only Luke Hartog who has managed to win more than 1 race overall in the pro category. This could be win number 5 for Luke. We've never had a season with this many winners, and with Luke to come back, and particularly this weekend where we've now come beyond the midway point of the championship, this is a firm stamp of authority and dominance on this championship.
Actually, you make a good point there, Shea, about the variety behind Luke Hartog, and not to take anything away as we get the white flag. This is not to take anything away from Luke at all, because with 5 wins on the season, if he gets around this 4 miles, he's clearly been the class of the field. It just shows how close it has been behind him, that no one else has been able to mount a strong challenge. and add those wins up to be able to try and keep Luke in sight on the championship points table. And I think that's the difference. If Luke hadn't been in the championship, and again, due deference to Luke and to Kelly Moss, but what a championship we would have had if Luke hadn't been in the championship in terms of how close it would have been. But he has been standout this year in a season that has given us great competition, but for 5 of the rounds, including this one, that's been great competition behind Luke Hartog and the 24 Kelly Moss Racing. We've still only got 2.5 seconds between second and fourth, and half a second between second and third for the 2 podium places. It's over 10 seconds here in 40 minutes. 40 minutes
with
has
the
elapsed,
safety car,
by the way. Oh, yeah, yes, good point. With the safety car that got everybody back up, that took, what, did he have 4 or 5 seconds when that happened? I know it was quite early on. It's impressive. Meantime, the battle in Pro-Am has seemingly swung the way of James Sofronas in the number 14 GMG, with Pedro Torres and Moise Oretsky scrapping for second and third. Pedro up into second there. Masters class has come closer together with Chris Palomo and Matt Holcomb now just a second apart with no cars between them. But for the 5th time in 2024, seeing the checkered flag first will be Luke Hartog for Kelly Moss Racing. The 24 is victorious again. And that will cement and extend his position at the top of the championship. A long battle and an entertaining one too, just outside the top 10 for James Sofronas, with first of all Moise Oretsky and then Pedro Torres on the GMG driver's back bumper. They're still scrapping for second and third, but it will be the number 14 that takes the Pro-Am category as he climbs the hill, and it'll be a 13th position. Pedro holds on to second, Moise third, Efren Castro will come through in fourth, with Marco Cironi fifth. Then the 2 Masters drivers, Chris Palomo and Matt Holcomb, coming to the line. Oh, it was close at the line, under a second, but Chris Palomo hangs on ahead of Matt Holcomb, with Scott Blind for Ruckus Racing trying to get back to Richard Edge. It's Richard Edge who will take third on the Masters podium. Scott Blind gets the fastest lap in Masters. Fastest lap overall for Luke Hartog. 2 poles, 2 wins and a fastest lap. That's pretty impressive for Luke Hartog, who tours back round the 4 miles. Shea Adams doing some quick arithmetic as we can take a look at the unofficial results. There were some changes after the first round yesterday after post-race scrutineering. Hartog, Vanier and Clark, your top 3. Ryan Yardley, Jimmy Libra, Alex Sedgwick, Michael McCann, Colin Kaminsky, Elias De La Torre, and Michael Cooper getting into the top 10 after a late race problem for Sabra Coop. Madeleine Stewart just outside the top 10 ahead of Eve Baltas. Then that great battle for Pro-Am, Sofronas, Torres and Oretsky, 13, 14, 15, with Castro, Efren Castro and Marco Cironi in supporting roles. Chris Palomo and Matt Holcomb finished just under a second apart in 18th and 19th in the Masters category, with Richard Edge holding on to the 3rd spot on the Masters podium, just ahead of Scott Blind, who put in the fastest lap of the Masters race on the last lap, and it'll be Scott in 4th then, and John Getz in 5th position. Shea Adam has done the arithmetic. Luke Hartog, I can tell you, has increased his lead at the top of the championship, but you can tell me by exactly how much.
Hey, you took the easy part there. It is 196 points for Luke Hartog, very unofficially by my math. At the end of this race, Alex Sedgwick is still in second on 149, and into third after the weekend with 135 is Ryan Yardley, but Canadian Zach Vanier, great effort this weekend, pulls himself up to 4th on 131. In the Pro-Am class, we have a serious battle on our hands. Marco Cironi, 156 points, Moise Uretsky, 154, Efren Castro in third, 147. So that is going to be a really fun one to watch. And in Masters, Chris Palomo really doing everything he can this weekend by 2 races, 2 wins, 2 pole positions. But it's still Matt Halcomb with the advantage, 212 points to 161 for Palomo.
Well, what a superb weekend for Kelly Moss and for Luke Hartog. The championship challenge continues as he takes his 4th and 5th victories on the season in front of a highly knowledgeable crowd. We move on next to Road America on the first weekend of August. If you can't join us then, we'll have full coverage on the usual channels. For Shea Adam, I'm John Hindhaugh. Thanks to all of our production team. Bye from Road America.